Welcome to the program, the place for common sense. If you've been here before, thank you for your participation. Your presence makes the journey a little bit lighter. If you've been here before, if you're here for the first time, welcome to the Fourth Branch program. The Fourth Branch program is not associated with any political party, and we at the Fourth Branch do not have any political aspiration. Our ultimate objective is to perfect the union. In order to do so, we have to remove the biggest obstacle of all: ignorance. Every day, weekday, and on Saturdays, we decide to debate a topic of importance: political, social. Today, we will continue with the reading of the report. Of course, we will provide some context, and prior to that, we'll provide you some related news to the Mueller report. Give us 60 seconds. We will give you the world. Once again, thank you for being here. As I mentioned earlier, we will continue with the reading of the Mueller report. We are still reading volume 1. We are excited because we're almost done. We're just a few pages away from completing the reading of volume 1. Now, from what we've seen with the remaining probably 24-25 pages, it seems that quite some of it is redacted, so it may be possible for us to finish the reading of volume 1 today. And of course, once we complete the reading of volume 1, we will tackle volume 2. From what we've seen so far, volume 2 seems to have a lot of tidbits, a lot of juicy stuff that are not on volume 1. Just a piece of news that we're expecting Mueller to testify on the Hill on July 17th. Now, this is considered major Democrats if you listen to what the media is saying, if you listen to what Democrats are saying. And the reason, in fact, you may recall that since the 2018 midterm election, Democrats have taken ownership of the House, the lower chamber, Congress. And since then, they have been trying to apply, if you like, the letter of the Constitution, which is to exercise oversight on the executive branch. Now, if you are simply just a political hack, a partisan, all you see is Democrats trying to derail Donald Trump, Democrats trying to find something about Donald Trump. If you are a patriot, however, and if you are a patriot first, you know that the way that our Constitution is set is for the legislature to exercise oversight on the executive branch And the reason for that, of course, is to make certain that our democracy is not being eroded. That's the point of it. Yes, I heard a lot of argument, people saying politics. Of course it is politics. That's exactly the point. It is politics. When Democrat is in the Oval Office, Republican use legislators, use all sort of tools in order to hold politics, in order to hold the Democrat president accountable. And it's always politics. It's never anything other than politics. So that's not a defense. In fact, it is good for any democracy to have members of the opposing party making certain that whoever holds the level of power in the Oval Office, the executive branch, does not run amok. And that was the point of framers, the Constitution. But unfortunately, as you cannot not be aware of it, the first 2 years of the Trump administration, the Republican Party, the Congress and the Senate did not do anything remotely, even pretending to hold the executive branch accountable. Now, if you are a Trump supporter, you like it because you think, great, they don't have to bother the president. But if you are a patriot, that had to give you a lot of pause, because the very existence of our republic, the very reason that other countries in the world try to emulate the United States of America. Now, you may think it's because the United States of America has financial opportunity. That too. But the reason that a lot of countries in the world try to emulate the United States of America is because of our Constitution. The way that our Constitution is framed, it provides some sort of check and balances on whomever is called the president. If that doesn't exist, there is no more democracy. No matter what you think about the United States of America, and you may think that we cannot lose the freedom, because I heard a lot of my fellow Republicans thinking that this is no big deal. You have a foreign power that interferes in our election and using the individual, the candidate, the individual who sits today in the Oval Office as the ally to do so. Republican, hey, no problem. Now, since the Democrats have announced that they're on July 17, 2019, yes, just a couple of weeks away, Robert Mueller will show up on Capitol Hill to answer questions. The report was generated because, as I began to allude to, the fact that a foreign power interferes in our internal affairs. Now, that happens all the time because we, as a government, the United States of America, our government has meddled and interfered in other countries' election as well. This is not any new for anyone who has studied history. We involved in a lot of things, actually beyond just meddling in an election. We involve in getting rid of people in power. We involve in a state that we don't like. So this is nothing new, but it is not acceptable, no matter who does it. So as such, when Russia meddled in an election, regardless of whom was trying to become the next president of the United States, it should be a concern to every American citizen, not just Republicans used to claim that they're patriot, they're the defenders of the nation. As I mentioned many times here in this program, what people say does not matter, doesn't mean squat. anybody can claim any label, and we have so far seen Republican claiming to be patriot, they claim to be Christian conservative, they claim to be evangelicals, and so on and so forth. But none of those labels match the people who are claiming them, because we've seen it, we've seen their actions. So don't take what people are saying as if they belong to the label matches them or the label belongs to them, because anybody can claim anything. But what they do, in fact, interestingly enough, those who claim to be Christian, they should know that the Bible clearly says, recognize a tree by its fruits. Not because the tree speaks and say, I am apple. A mango tree, knowing that apple is much is better liked than mango, may claim from today to doomsday it is apple, does not make a mango tree apple. Be very careful about that. In fact, George Washington warns us that to guard against the imposture of pretended patriotism. And we have plenty of that today. It didn't happen today, but it is more obvious, more evident today with Donald Trump in the Oval Office that all those Republicans who claim to be patriots, they all showing that they actually very far from being being patriot. Their actions are not the action of any patriot. So as Mueller is preparing to come to the Hill to testify, as reporting on Politico, that's news publication, Republicans, Jim Jordan is the leader, are bracing to try to discredit Robert Mueller. And you're asking yourself the question, why? Robert Mueller is a long-life Republican. Nobody can argue that. He served under George H. Walker Bush. He served under George W. Bush. And you appointed him as to continue the job of being FBI director. And even after Obama, Trump was contemplating Robert Mueller as well. So Robert Mueller is a man of integrity. Now, if there is anyone in Washington that anybody can speak without any reservation and say that guy is a man of integrity, it is Robert Mueller. Now, put that aside for a moment, because the idea actually is the fact that a country, a foreign country, enemy number one of the United States, Russia, meddle in our internal affairs. A special counsel was appointed to find out the depth of the meddling of our enemy in our system of government. I don't know what is more important to those people who are legislators, Republican legislators in Washington. United States of America, the Constitution, the country, or a political party. I mentioned several times here that the framers of the Constitution possibly anticipate there would be a political party. The whole party, all members of the party would behave in such a way that it would jeopardize this decision. You know, the same constitution that Republicans love to use to claim that they have the rights to bear arms. You know that constitution? And yet the very individual that Republicans elected rather, to represent them are the individuals who are working to erode our democracy, to shred our constitution. And those are not mere words. For 2 years, they did absolutely nothing about the job, the principal job, exercise oversight on the executive branch. That's not me saying that. That's not Democrats saying that. That's the Constitution of the United States. You can't want this part of the Constitution because you like it, right to bear arms. But you have a problem with this other part, which is actually even more important than the right to bear arms, which is to guarantee our democracy. And then you say, I don't care. I did say before, and I'll say it again, the country is in the predicament it is today is because, first, we have legislators who couldn't care less about the United States of America. They can use their position to make money, to climb the ladder, and they use the constituent. They continue to dumbify the constituent who continue to believe they're doing something good for the country. I really seriously wonder whether there is anyone in the Republican Party with a shred of logic that can clearly see this is not acceptable. Because telling me you love the country, telling me you're a patriot, what to me? Because every time you have the opportunity to do something, you do just the opposite. That hurts, that erode our democracy, and that literally shred our constitution. What kind of patriot is that? So the Republicans are bracing to try to discredit Mueller. Now he's a guy, during the 2 years of the investigation, in order not to have anything to do with politics, he never issued any statement. He never said anything. In fact, he stayed completely out of the limelight. Even when Trump threatened him, even when Trump attorney threatened him, even when flash behind the scene to get rid of him happened, he never said a single word. That aside, that's a guy who left behind a $3 million a year job to get a meager $140,000, during which time he was special counsel, because Robert Mueller has always been serving the country. He served his country in Vietnam. He didn't have to, just like you see Donald Trump capped out of joining the armed forces. He could have. He has well-to-do parents. No, he did not do that. He graduated from an Ivy League school. He could have decided, you know what, I don't want anything to do with anything about the government. No, that's not what he did. Now, Republicans, instead of using the opportunity to listen to the individual who dedicated his time for 2 years, put his private life on hold for 2 years, to find out how much our enemy has infiltrated our system of government, and try to figure out a way to prevent that from happening, they're bracing to try to discredit Mueller. Try to find out exactly how damaging that was. But to discredit Mueller. You call those people patriot? Remember when you may not remember, Obama was president, there was an attack on the embassy in Libya, and the ambassador there was killed of the people. There were 8 investigations by the Republicans, all of which try not necessarily to even find out what was wrong in order to fix it, but try to find out what did the Obama administration and ultimately Hillary Clinton did wrong that caused that problem. All investigations conducted by the Republicans. Yes, it was politics, but that's what oversight meant. Obama didn't provide whatever was necessary for them to conduct that oversight, because that's the way it is supposed to be. So when I hear Republicans saying it's just politics, of course it is politics, but it is necessary in order to preserve the system of democracy that we have here in America. If you cannot see that, then you definitely do not belong in America. You may have been born here, but you're definitely not a patriot. This is what the framers of the Constitution did. This is how they structure our government in order to prevent a running amok individuals in the Oval Office from destroying our way of life. It's not supposed to be pleasant, but it is necessary for the preservation of our democracy. And there has been a single individual who has contributed immensely to that effort. Robert Mueller is such an individual. All those legislators, Republican legislators in Washington, are bracing to try to discredit Robert Mueller. They could not even come anywhere near his integrity, let alone. They're gonna prove once again their job is not to exercise oversight, but to continue to erode our democracy. So watch out for the July 17th, and watch out for your fellow Republican asking questions. If you have any intention of helping the country move beyond the idea of a foreign government intervening in our system of government. So you should ask yourself, are you a patriot? Not that you say you are a patriot, but are you a patriot? In the Bible, for those who are Christian, for those who believe in God, for those who think or believe that they're Christian, it is counted in the Bible that there are people at the end that would come in front of God and say, God, remember me. I did this, I did that, I did the other. You know, Christian, they could deceive people because we can only see what we can see, but Bible says God can see your heart, even when you doing it in the darkness. And God will say, I never knew you. And in the lake of fire where there is gnashing of the teeth. That's for those who claim to be Christian. But if you do not subscribe to Christianity, the question for you, are you a patriot? If you are a patriot, you cannot not be outraged, because this is not of being Democrat or being Republican, because the very reason that our democracy survives is because of that very structure of our government. The minute that you don't have any oversight, then the idea of democracy in the United States of America ceases to exist. So if you are a Republican and you think it's okay, then you too are. There's no other word of saying it. No matter what you hear people saying, trying to sugarcoat, trying to go around to explain it to you, that's all it means. If you are okay with what is currently going on, with the party, you categorically are not a patriot. And no matter what you think of yourself, you are not a patriot. Because a patriot is someone who would give away sometimes of his or her own life, let alone sacrifice a political party in order to preserve the democracy, in order to preserve the Constitution, in order to preserve the rule of law. And I do not, don't talk to anyone about being patriot, because you are no patriot. Any man can make mistakes. Any man can make mistakes. But only an idiot persists in his error. Marcus Cicero was a Roman philosopher. In the 63 BC. Any man can make, but only an idiot persist in his error. Now, it is acceptable that one acknowledges that during the 20th century, millions of individuals went to the poll with false, deceiving information by a foreign government propagating falsehoods against Donald Trump and promoting Donald Trump. It is not okay, but it is understandable that those millions of individuals would be led astray by a foreign government. But it is a whole different thing when you are finding out that the very individuals you voted for as the President of the United States was involved in that. According to the report we've been reading to you, more than 150 people involved in the Trump campaign were Russian, are pro-Russian, or people inclined to promote Russian policy in the United States of America. Among those 150 people, high level position in the Trump campaign. Never happened before in the United States of America. But instead of putting the focus on that problem, the Republican, both legislature and constituent, have all kind of rationale to excuse that. All kind of rationale brought to the table. The Republican legislature, people like Jim Bennett, Andy Biggs, Lindsey Graham, their argument is the investigation should not have happened. So it doesn't matter what crime was committed, because the investigation was on the wrong. Think of it this way. Someone committed a crime, but because law enforcement was in the neighborhood for something else and find about the crime and arrest the individual, and the individual say, no, you cannot arrest me. That's wrong. Because you're not here to investigate this crime. You're here for something else. That's what Republican legislators are advancing. Now the constituent themselves, Republicans are saying, oh, that's fine. That's fine that Donald Trump, solicited help from a foreign government. Democrats would have done the same thing too. Listen to the patriot talking. I don't know if some people, when they're talking, if they don't hear what they're saying, or if they think the individual they're saying that to are as naive, as stupid as they are. Because if you listen to what you're saying, when you're saying those things, cannot sound right to you. Oh, that's fine that, the individual who see, because that's the defense now, they know the claim, Donald Trump claimed for 2 years, it's a hoax, it's a witch hunt, it's a hoax, it's a witch hunt, and then suddenly you have all this proof in front of you, you cannot claim it's a hoax anymore. Now, the rationale changed. I would understand. So that's fine. Republicans have to come to did something wrong. That's the only way to solve a problem. You have to acknowledge that you did something terribly wrong, and it's not just something small that you can say it's okay. Something terribly wrong. It's not just about a foreign government interfering in our election, but it's even worse than that. It's the very individual who then aspired the highest office, soliciting and accepting help from the United States of America, #1 enemy. That is not small. No matter how you speak that, it is not. And for the record, no Democrat would not have done the same thing. I mentioned it before here, and I'll mention it again. Democrat candidate for President of the United States were approached by Russia, and all 3 times they said no. So, my fellow Republicans, the argument that Democrats the same thing is not a defense. What was done was wrong, and the Trump the Trump camp should not have accepted or solicited help from our enemy, from anyone. So the defense that Democrat would have done it, no, that's not a defense. It is a confession that should give the individual pause that something is not right about the Republican Party. So the problem is not Robert Mueller. And I would say the problem is not even. My mother always used to say, it takes 2 to tango. Without the willingness of Donald Trump and team inviting and accepting Russia couldn't have happened because, as I mentioned, 3 Democrat candidates for president in 3 separate occasions, not all at once, were approached by Russia for the same way Donald Trump approached, and they said no. And you will find that information in detail on one of the articles published about the fact that I think it was part 3 where I Donald Trump will not be re-elected in 2020, in which I provided the example that 3 separate occasions Russia approached Democrat candidate for president and said no. So for Republican, no, Democrats would not have done the same thing. And by the way, this is not a defense. In fact, that shows a lot of the lack of patriotism for the United States. That shows how much you, Republican, fellow Republican, how much you are no patriot. If you are a patriot, you cannot not be outraged, because it's not a matter of being Democrat, because the very reason that our democracy survives is because of that very structure of our government. The minute that then at that point the idea of democracy in the United States of America ceases to exist. So if you are a Republican and you think it's okay, then you are no patriot. There is no other word of saying it. No matter what you hear people saying, trying to sugarcoat, trying to go around to explain it to you, that's all it means. If you are okay with what is going on with Donald Trump, with the Republican Party, you categorically are not a patriot. And no matter what you think of yourself, you are not a patriot. Because a patriot is someone who makes sacrifice sometimes of his or her own life, let alone sacrifice a political party in order to preserve the democracy, in order to preserve the Constitution, in order to preserve the law. So if you cannot do that, don't talk to anyone about being patriot, because you are no patriot.
Live from New York City, at the top of the hour, every weekday from PM to PM. The Fourth French presents discussions, debates, commentaries on social, political issues, current events, sports, entertainment, religion, education, science, and every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. a presentation on controversial issues such as abortion, homosexuality, war on blacks. Are Republicans dumber than Democrats? Information which might irritate you, make you cry, make you laugh, but overall will make you smarter. Join us every time. It is the right thing to do. It is the only way to keep your sanity in a world of chaos, hypocrisy, immorality, and deception. Welcome to Common Sense.
Now let's continue with the reading of the Mueller report. Prosecution and declination decision. The appointment order authorized the special counsel's office to, quote, to prosecute federal crime arising from its investigation and, quote, of the matters assigned to it. In deciding whether to exercise this prosecutorial authority, the office has been guided by the principle of federal prosecution set forth in the Justice, formerly U.S. Attorney's Manual. In particular, the office has evaluated whether the conduct of the individuals considered for prosecution constituted a federal offense, and admissible evidence would probably be sufficient to obtain and sustain a conviction for such an offense. Justice Manual 9-27.222-220 (2018), where the answer to those questions was yes, the office further considered whether the prosecution would serve a substantial federal interest. The individual was subject to effective prosecution in another jurisdiction, and there existed an adequate non-criminal alternative to prosecution. As explained below, those led the office to seek charges against two sets of Russian nationals for their roles in perpetrating the active measure social media campaign and computer intrusion operation. The following two sentences have been redacted: harm to ongoing matter. The office similarly determined that the contact between campaign officials and Russia-linked individuals either did not involve the commission of crime or, in the case of campaign finance offenses, that our evidence was not sufficient to obtain and sustain a criminal conviction. At the same time, the office concluded that the principles of federal prosecution supported charging certain individuals connected to the campaign with making false statement or otherwise obstructing this investigation or parallel congressional investigation. Russian active measure social media campaign. On February 16, 2018, a federal grand jury in the District of Columbia returned an indictment charging 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian entities, including the Internet Research Agency IRA and Concord Management and Consulting LLC Concord, with violating U.S. criminal laws in order to interfere with U.S. election and political processes. The indictment charges all of the defendants with conspiracy to defraud the United States, count 1, 3 defendants with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and bank fraud, count 2, and 5 defendants with aggravated identity theft, count 3 through 8. Research Agency indictment. Concord, which is one of the entities charged in the count 1 conspiracy, entered an appearance through U.S. counsel and moved to dismiss the charge on multiple grounds. And memorandum opinion issued on August 13 and November 15, 2018, the district court denied Concord's motion to dismiss. United States versus Concord Management and Consulting LLC 347F.SUP.3D.38 DDC 2018. United States versus Concord Management and Consulting LLC 317F.SUP.3D DDC 2018. As of this writing, the prosecution of Concord remains ongoing before the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. The other defendant remains at large. although members of the IRA had contact with individuals affiliated with the Trump campaign, the indictment does not charge any Trump campaign official or any person with participating in the conspiracy. That is because the investigation did not identify evidence that any U.S. person who coordinated or communicated with the IRA knew that he or she was speaking with Russian nationals engaged in the criminal conspiracy. In other words, unknowingly. The office therefore determined that such person did not have the knowledge or criminal purpose required to charge them in the conspiracy to defraud the United States, count 1, or in the separate count alleging a wire and fraud and bank fraud conspiracy in IRA and 2 individual Russian nationals, count 2. The office did, however, charge 1 U.S. national for his role in supplying false or stolen bank account numbers that allowed the IRA conspirators to access U.S. online payment system by circumventing those system security features. On February 12, 2018, Richard Pinero pleaded guilty pursuant to a single count information to identify fraud in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1028A 7 and B parenthesis 1 parenthesis D. Plea agreement United States versus Richard Pinedo, number 118- DDC, February 12, 2018, Doc 10. The investigation did not establish that Pinedo was aware of the account numbers enabled the IRA members to anonymously access a financial network through which they transacted with U.S. persons and companies. See Government Sent Memo United States versus Richard Pinedo, number 118-CR-24 DDC, September 26, 2018, Doc 24. On October 10, 2018, Pinedo was sentenced to 6 months of imprisonment, to be followed by 6 months of home confinement, and was ordered to complete 100 hours of community service. Russian hacking and dumping operation, Section 1030, computer intrusion. On July 13, 2018, a federal grand jury in the District of Columbia returned an indictment charging Russian military intelligence officers from the GRU with concerned into various U.S. computers used by the Clinton campaign, DNC, DCCC, and other U.S. persons in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1030 and 371, count 1, and conspiring to commit money laundering in furtherance of that hacking conspiracy in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1028A and 1956H, and a separate conspiracy to hack into the computers of U.S. persons and entities responsible for the administration of the 2016 U.S. election in violation of 18 U.S.C. 71, count 11. Netixo indictment. As of this writing, all 12 defendants remain at large. The Netixo indictment alleges that the defendants conspired with one another and with others to hack into the computers of U.S. persons and entities involved in the 2016 U.S. presidential election, steal documents from those computers, and engage release of the stolen document to interfere in the election. The indictment also describes how, in staging the releases, the defendant used the Guccifer 2.0 persona to disseminate documents through WikiLeaks. On July 22, 2016, WikiLeaks released over 20,000 emails and other documents that the hacking conspirators had stolen from the DNC. Detect Show and 48. In addition, on October 7, 2016, WikiLeaks began releasing emails that some conspirators had stolen from Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta after a successful speech operation. Detect Show Indictment 49. The remaining paragraph in that page have been completely redacted. 1. Grand jury harm to ongoing matters. Page also, that's the second page from what I just read, have also been completely redacted. Harm to ongoing matters. There is not a single word that visible in that page. The third page also completely redacted as harm to ongoing matters. The fourth page, most of which are redacted, so I'm read only what's visible and available, and it's only less than, that's 1/3 of the page. One title say potential section 1030 violation by, and that word has been, as I mentioned, most of the items in that page have been redacted. Personal privacy. So we'll continue the reading of what currently available in the page. See United States versus Willis 476 F.3D 1121 1125 N.1 10th Circ 2007, explaining that 86 to section 1030 reflect Congress' desire to reach, quote, intentional act of unauthorized access rather than mistaken, inadvertent, or careless ones, end of quote. Quoting S. Rep. 99-432 at 5/1986. In addition, the computer, next word is redacted, likely qualifies as a, quote, protected one under the statute, which reaches, quote, effectively all computers with internet access, end of quote. United States versus Nozal 676 F.3D 854 Circuit 2012 Embark. Applying the principle of federal prosecution, however, the office determined that prosecution of this potential violation was not warranted. Those principles to consider, among other things, the nature and seriousness of the offense, the person's culpability in connection with the offense, and the probable sentence to be imposed if the prosecution is successful. Justice Manual 9-27.230. Russian government outreach and contact. As explained in section 4 above, the office's investigation uncovered evidence on numerous links i.e. contact, between Trump campaign officials and individuals all claiming to have ties to the Russian government. The office evaluated the contacts under several sets of federal laws, including conspiracy laws and statutes governing foreign agents in the United States. After considering the available evidence, the office did not pursue charges under the statute against any of the individuals discussed in Section 4 above, with the exception of against Paul Manafort and Richard Gates based on their activities on behalf of Ukraine. One of the interactions between the Trump campaign and Russian-affiliated individual, the June 20 meeting between a ranking campaign official and Russian promising derogatory information on Hillary Clinton, implicates an additional body of law, campaign finance statute. Schemes involving solicitation or receipt of assistance from foreign sources raise difficult statutory and constitutional questions. As explained below, the office evaluated those questions in connection with the June 9th meeting. This sentence has been redacted harm to ongoing matter. The office ultimately concluded that even if the principal legal question were resolved favorably to the government, prosecution encounter difficulties proving that campaign officials or individuals connected to the campaign willfully violated the law. That's why Donald Trump Jr. was not indicted. Finally, although the evidence of, let me just add that sentence was mine, not part of the report. Finally, although the evidence of contact between campaign official and affiliated individual may not have been sufficient to establish or sustain criminal charges, several U.S. persons connected to the campaign made false statements about those contacts and took other steps to obstruct the office investigation and rules of Congress. This office has therefore charged some of those individuals with making false statements and obstructing justice. Potential coordination, conspiracy, and collusion. This office evaluated potentially criminal conduct that involved the collective action of multiple individuals, not under the rubric of collusion, but through the lens of law. In so doing, the office recognized that the word, quote, collude, and of quote, appears in the Acting Attorney General August 2nd, 2017 memorandum. It has frequently been invoked and it is sometimes referenced in antitrust law, CEG, Group versus Brown and Williamson Tobacco Corporation, 509 U.S. 209-227, 1990. But collusion is not a specific offense or theory of liability found in the U.S. Code, nor is it a term of art in federal criminal law. To the contrary, even as defined in legal dictionaries, collusion is largely synonymous with conspiracy, as that crime is set forth in the General Federal Conspiracy Statute, 18 U.S.C. 371. See Black's Law 321, 10th edition, 2014. Collusion is, quote, an agreement to defraud another or to do or obtain something forbidden by law, quote. Alexander Burrell, a law dictionary and glossary, 311, 1871, quote, an agreement between two or more persons to defraud another or to employ such form as means of accomplishing some unlawful object, end of quote. 1 Bouvier Law Dictionary 352, 1897. Quote, an agreement to defraud a person of his right by the form of law or to obtain an object forbidden by law. End of quote. For that reason, these offices focus in resolving the question of liability was on conspiracy as defined in federal law, not the commonly discussed term collusion. The office considered in particular whether contact between an official and Russia-linked individual could trigger liability for the crime of conspiracy, either under statutes that have their own conspiracy language, e.g. 18 U.S.C. 1349, or under the General Conspiracy Statute, 18 U.S.C. 371. The investigation did not establish that the contact described in Volume 1, Section 4, supra, to agreement to commit any substantive violation of federal criminal law, including foreign influence and campaign finance laws, both of which are discussed further below. Therefore, did not charge any individual associated with the Trump campaign with conspiracy to commit federal offense arising from Russia contact, either under a specific statute or under 371 offenses clause. Pause for a moment. I'm giving you my personal opinion. As we're reading this, you can clearly tell that did not exonerate those people like Donald Trump Jr. or other people who participated in the meeting, but rather saying that he could not have enough evidence to convince them in a criminal proceeding. That exonerate doesn't mean they didn't do anything wrong. It just means Robert Mueller would not waste the time trying to argue the case when it's difficult to obtain a conviction. Now let's continue with the reading. The office also did not charge any campaign official or associate with a conspiracy under the fraud clause. That clause criminalizes participating in an agreement to obstruct a lawful function of the U.S. government or its agency through deceitful or dishonest means. See Dennis versus United States 384 U.S. 855 861 1966. Hammerschmidt versus United States 282 188 1924. See also United States versus Concord Management and Consulting LLC 347 F SUP 3D 3846 DDC. The investigation did not establish any agreement among campaign officials or between such official and Russia-linked individual to interfere with or obstruct a lawful function of during the campaign or transition period. And as discussed in Volume 1, Section 5, A, supra, the investigation did not identify evidence that any campaign official knowingly and intentionally participated in the conspiracy to defraud that the office charged, namely the active measures conspiracy described in Volume 1. Accordingly, the office did not charge any campaign associate or other U.S. person with conspiracy to defraud the United States based on the Russia-related contact described above. Administration Foreign Agent Statute, FARA, and 18 U.S.C. 951. The office next assesses the potential liability of campaign-affiliated individuals under statute regulating action on behalf of or work done for a foreign government. Governing law. Under 18 U.S.C. 951, it is generally illegal to act in the United States as an agent of a foreign government without providing notice to the Attorney General. Although the defendant must act on behalf of a foreign government as opposed to other foreign entities, the act need not involve espionage. Rather, act of any type suffice for liability. See United States versus Duran 596 F.3D 1283 1293-94 11th Circuit 2010. Also United States versus Lachkin 554 F.3D 709 715 7th Circuit 2009. United States versus Dumacy 424 F.3D 566 581 7th Circuit 2005. And quote, agent of a foreign government, end of quote, is an individual who, quote, agrees to operate, end of quote, in the United States, quote, subject to the direction or control of a foreign government official, end of quote. The crime defined by Section 951 is complete upon knowingly acting in the United States as an unregistered foreign government agent, 18 U.S.C. 951A. The statute does not require willfulness, and knowledge of the notification requirement is not an element of the offense. United States versus Kempa 529 F.3D 980 998 to 999 11th Circuit 2008, Duran 596 F3D at 1290 2004, Dumacy 424 F3D at 581. The Foreign Agent Registration Act, FARA, generally makes it illegal to act as an agent of a foreign principal in certain largely political activities in the United States without registering with the Attorney General, 22 U.S.C. 66611 to 621. The treaty relation must be with a foreign principal or, quote, a person any of whose activities are directly or indirectly supervised, directed, controlled, financed, subsidized or in major part by a foreign principal, end of quote. 22 U.S.C. 611 C1. That includes a foreign government or political party and various foreign individuals and entities. 22 U.S.C. 611B. A covered relationship exists if a person, quote, acts as an agent, representative, employee, or servant, quote, or, quote, in any other capacity at the order, request, or under the foreign principal direction of or control, end of quote. 22 U.S.C. 611 D1. It is sufficient if the person, quote, agrees, consents, assumes, or purports to act as, or who is or holds himself out to be, whether or not pursuant to contractual relationship, an agent of a foreign principal, end of quote. 22 U.S.C. 611 C2. The triggering activity is that the agent, quote, directly or through any in the United States, 1, engages in, quote, political activities for or in the interest of the foreign principal, end of quote, which includes attempts to influence federal officials or the public. 2. Act as, quote, public relations counsel, publicity, information service, or political support for or in the interest of such foreign principal, end of quote. 3. Quote, solicit, collect, disburses or dispenses contribution, loans, money, or other things of value for or in the interest of such foreign principal, end of quote. Or 4, quote, represent the interest of such foreign principal, end of quote, before a federal agency or official, 22 U.S.C. 611 C1. It is a crime to engage in a, quote, willful violation of any provision of the act or any regulation thereunder, end of quote. It is a crime to engage in a, quote, willful violation of any provision of the act or any regulation thereunder, end of quote, 22 U.S.C. 618 A. It is also a crime willfully to make false statement or omission of material facts in file registration statement or supplement, 22 U.S.C. 618A. Violation have a maximum penalty of 5 years of imprisonment and a $10,000 fine, 22 U.S.C. 618. I hope this presentation was of some use to you. That part that we just read, we know it's boring, but that's a Mueller report. It was Mueller describing, providing a definition of conspiracy and collusion. So it was mostly that, trying to provide some basis as to to understand the people that were charged, as to what kind of laws that they follow in order to get to that point. And as we were reading that, if you were paying close attention, you would notice that the reason that Donald Trump Jr. did not even Robert Mueller did not press charges against them is because Robert Mueller believes that they did not know what they were doing. They did not know they were doing anything that's criminal. But nevertheless, and of course Robert Mueller had a very specific mandate, and he would not waste his time trying to prove a situation. A normal prosecutor would probably follow suit, but Robert Mueller was more interested in finding the most important part of the problem, which is Russia interference in our election and the individual who knowingly or who had very active participation in helping the process. Unfortunately, we did not complete the reading of Volume 1 today. We hope that we can complete some tomorrow, and if not, but most definitely this week, because we ought to finish that, and maybe not a bad idea to complete it this week, and then next week after the 4th of July weekend we can come back in Volume 2. I hope that was of some use to you. Well, if not, you already know what to do. Send us comment, criticism, suggestion. Let us know how to make this better, because, well, we're not going anywhere, so you might as well help make it better. If you have a particular topic you would like us to take a look at, send it to us. We will check it and we'll debate it right here on the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon or evening, whatever it happened to be. Good day. That was an update through the prism of common sense. Join us again tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. for a full session. I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. Send us comments, criticism, suggestion, or simply let us know how we're doing. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful afternoon. See you next time.
The Fourth Branch podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you find of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.